She-Hulk is labeled as a comedy, and it's about as funny as Hannah Gadsby.
Think about this. You're stuck in traffic, and the lights turn blue.
As a piece of entertainment, it fails in almost every category in its very first episode. You know, the episode that's supposed to grab people's attention and retain an audience? At least the special effects aren't as bad as we all worried about. But the show fails at making anyone care about the lead character. It has shallow writing. It continues the trend of knocking down a beloved character in order to artificially prop up the replacement one. It completely fails at being comedic whatsoever, and its meta-commentary on gender struggles is painfully on the nose, condescending, and patronizing. These points will be discussed, and I'm anticipating the hate that comes with it, so I got my fire suit on, and I could go against the fucking Charizard, so bring the heat. There are so many things wrong with this show, so many layers to this onion, not even Shrek could get through it all. So I'll touch on these highlights, or lowlights rather. She-Hulk starts out with trial lawyer Jennifer Walters testing a purposely vague closing argument for an upcoming court case. Purposely vague because the writers said they realized they aren't good at writing courtroom drama. So instead of doing research to make their show better, they just kind of skipped that part. You know, the other major part of our main character that isn't about her being a Hulk. Anyway, she has a female paralegal colleague encouraging her and a male lawyer telling her to smile more. This scene tells you exactly what you're in for, so buckle up for this one. Yes, every male character is going to be a stereotypical douche, and every female character is going to be the opposite. Well, except Jennifer Walters herself. She's also a douche throughout the entire episode, but shh, we'll get to that later. We rewind a bit to when Giggle Girl and her cousin Bruce, aka Hulk, were on a road trip. Giggle Girl is asking Hulk about Captain America's sex life, which made me laugh.
Obviously, Captain America was a virgin.
Only because I thought about the outrage that would ensue on Twitter if, say, Black Widow's sex life was being discussed. And then a fucking alien ship appears in the road and they crash. Funny Girl saves Bruce by pulling him from the wreckage. Yep. And his blood gets mixed in with her blood and an excuse for her to be She-Hulk. She runs off and finds herself at a cliché bar where cliché women walk in and are super helpful to her. Meanwhile, the men are cliché assholes doing more stereotypical shit.
What's up? What's your name?
So she turns into female Hulk and lunges at them in a rage before being stopped by Bruce. Then he brings her to Dexter's laboratory where he shows empathy towards her and offers her help. And she sees this as a perfect opportunity to belittle him and bluntly tell the audience that she's superior to him.
Because I'm better than you?
It's just basically different.
In a better way.
He continues trying to help her all the same, and we get some more on-the-nose dialogue about the female plight.
The triggers are anger and fear.
Those are like the baseline of any woman just existing.
All right, then.
And her Hulk, masters everything there is to being a Hulk in a matter of days instead of the decade and a half it took Bruce. The show even makes sure to point this out multiple times, in a way trying to pull the "if we mention the stupid, it's no longer stupid" card, while simultaneously using it to remind the audience how fucking awesome her Hulk is. She's pissed off and angry the entire time she's there, but under the careful construction of the least self-aware dialogue ever written, she explains how good she is at controlling her emotions, because otherwise she may get slighted for it by men, catcalled by men, or even murdered by men. And that makes her 1,000 times better than Bruce.
Here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. When I'm catcalled in the street, incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me. I'll get called emotional or difficult, or I might just literally get murdered. I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Shut up! Shut the fuck up!
There's a lot to digest in that scene alone, but I'll circle back to it, I promise. Anyway, she tries to leave, and the neutering of the Hulk continues when a dude who stopped a fucking alien the size of a skyscraper dead in its tracks with his fist is straight up lifted and thrown by Giggle Girl in her Jeep. Then again, I've been told I don't own a Wrangler, so I just wouldn't understand. They end up getting in a fight, and then for whatever fucking reason, Hulk changes his mind and tells her it's totally cool, go ahead and leave and do your thing since you're already the fucking Tom Brady of being a Hulk. We fast forward back to the present where she's about to give her closing argument at her trial. The stereotypical dumbass man tells her not to screw up, then before she's able to actually give the argument, some random villain shows up and Giggle Girl hulks out and stops her. Then says some more unfunny shit and the episode's over. Now let's break this shit down. If this is supposed to be a sitcom, and it's actually labeled as a comedy, I haven't spoken to a single person yet who said they actually found anything amusing in the show, at least not unironically. Comedy is subjective for sure, but there's a general consensus regarding the MCU that the comedy aspect of the universe falls flat a lot of the time. Considering jokes were falling flat even when Robert Downey Jr. was giving them, I assure you, Tatiana Maslany and Mark Ruffalo aren't delivering humor better than he did. Nothing really happens in this episode besides what you already saw in the trailer, and I asked the same question about this that I did about Thor: Love and Thunder. It's supposed to be a comedy, and since it's not funny, what the fuck are we even watching? What is this? Well, I'll answer it.
That is one big pile of shit.
As mentioned briefly, the writers themselves said they realized none of them are good at writing anything related to a courtroom. The first scene, Jennifer is giving some vague closing argument that sounds like word salad, and the next opportunity to give her closing statement is at the end of the episode, where it's cut off before she could even begin when she's interrupted by a random supervillain attack. Keeping in mind what the writers themselves said and what happens in the show, if this doesn't speak to the word lazy when it comes to writing, I don't know what else would. It's literal laziness. And it also shows laziness on behalf of the studio, or at least where their focus is, because they didn't give a shit about hiring a writer who's good at writing what the story is actually about. Almost every single character is unlikable too, especially the main character. I'm not sure why we're supposed to be rooting for her. This character is shitty, rude, mean, and clearly we're supposed to empathize with her because of her feminine plight. But that's just audience manipulation in the most lazy way possible. It's not good writing. Speaking of writing, let's get back to this scene.
I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you. So all of this just feels like projecting.
For starters, it's on the nose and completely inappropriate as far as the story goes. We have an affluent woman whose biggest issue is being catcalled, telling Bruce Banner that she has it harder than him, multiplied by 1,000. Story-wise, this is outrageous because of everything Hulk has been through. She's already belittled him multiple times for his use of behavioral therapy techniques, he's suffered through mental health issues leading to a failed suicide attempt, and he sacrificed his entire life for the greater good and gave up his physical well-being to bring back 4 billion people. I mean, he's kind of suffered as much as anyone, if not more, but we have someone comparing being catcalled and told to smile as not equivalent to, but more difficult than, anything he's done in his life. This is more than a writing issue though, because this scene is written for the meta, for the very specific targeted audience watching at home, not for the characters. The scene even slows down and plays some manipulative, sad music behind her "oh woe is me" pity party dialogue. As far as writing, it was pandering, condescending, and eye-roll inducing. It's in poor taste considering the story context and who the characters are. The thing about a scene like this is someone talking about it negatively is put in a lose-lose situation. There are some arguments about these sort of things like,
why can't you just enjoy the show? Why does it always have to be some sort of agenda with you? Why do you hate strong female characters?
First, I'll point you toward my Rogue One and Everything Everywhere All at Once reviews to refute that bullshit. Secondly, it's clearly meant to be talked about. Otherwise, it wouldn't have literally been shown in the fucking marketing for the show. That marketing's gotten some backlash because character-wise, it's plain old stupid bad writing, coupled with the studio actually advertising this makes it quite clear it's not about the story, it's about the agenda they'd like to push. Mark Millar, world-famous comic book writer from Marvel, DC, and a number of creator-owned graphic novels, pointed out that art, and particularly comic books, have been political since their inception. The difference now is the blunt nature of the writing, lack of tact and lack of care that goes into what's being shat out by these studios. Everything Everywhere All at Once shows how to do these things and do them brilliantly. Meanwhile, you have the main actress saying that there's a strange fascination with female bodies in the MCU. Some more hilariously tone-deaf comments that completely ignore this. This is encapsulated by the continued dumbing down and destruction of Bruce Banner, aka Hulk, who was once a highlight and an actual draw for audiences, but now is undercut, belittled, and shown up by his counterpart in every way. A reminder that Marvel can't seem to write new characters without beating down and humiliating the beloved ones that came before.
See, what we did was, we made a copy from 2. And now sometimes you make a copy of a copy, it's not quite as sharp as, well, the original. I got a lot.
It's a shitty way of getting a character to their awesome status without having them experience a full satisfying arc where they get there in the end after loss and struggle. They're just instantly good at everything and better than everyone else because they just are, so fuck you. Additionally fascinating is how her Hulk is treated poorly by all the stereotypical men And she's so good at controlling her response to vocally antagonistic men that she turns into She-Hulk and physically attacks them. And her interactions with Bruce, the one man in the show treating her with compassion, are written where she treats him terribly in every conceivable way.
Because I'm better than you?
They're just basically different.
In a better way.
So all of this just feels like projecting a lot of shit onto me.
And I'm sorry that I said a bunch of harsh but very true things.
Wow, an apology that still doubles down on a thing you're apologizing for.
The way this show is written, I have zero confidence that she's going to have some sort of come around to realize the error of her ways. And the odds are definitely stacked against this wish after the writers have come out and explained that her origin was actually supposed to happen in the final episode. But they moved things around at the last minute because they felt the audience would want to know that information sooner. So much for an arc, the character was going to end right where she begins. I doubt I'll be reviewing more of the show, even though they're bringing in Daredevil in a desperate attempt to broaden its audience. Shitting on your primary viewership and then throwing them a bone with a beloved character like Charlie Cox's Daredevil is borderline gaslighting. I have plenty to be reviewing and stopped writing another video to do this one as a sort of emergency, so I'll return to that one, I think. Till next time.
JJ's online.